So you thought it was an either or, didn't you? Surprise! Quite honestly, the character of our life shows up as the character that we are. And I know I can be quite the character. And having now gotten to know some of you, I won't tell your stories if you don't tell mine. Because we have some characters in our midst. And that's a beautiful thing. Now, where it becomes a challenge is when we show up confused as if someone has invaded our body. I just appreciate I'm not alone. Thank you. I am good with authentic outbursts. You know, a hallelujah and amen. I'm from the South. I'm good with those. They will throw me a bit. Sometimes I look for them and like, is anybody awake? Because I grew up with folks running the aisles. So you'd be hard pressed to throw me by your activity. I grew up with characters. That's how I turned into one. The Greek word character literally means engraved mark. Now think about that in terms of how we're created and what we're created out of. When that little connection happened for me, I just sat there working on my talk with tears streaming down as I realized that whatever this is, this enormous love, this enormous presence, literally marked itself in me when it created me. That its very nature is embedded in me. It's not something I have to work for. I don't have to look for it. It is engraved in me, on me. That just blows me away. And how easy it is to forget that when I'm watching your behavior. Because don't we like to separate ourselves? It's so easy to come in here and talk about oneness. It's really easy when everybody's doing what I think they should do to see them as one with me. But oneness does not mean agreement. Oneness does not mean sameness. Think about it. Can you imagine living in a world where we're all the same? Pretty sure there was a movie about that. Those Stepford people. Well, and I'm changing it because I'm not going to single out women, because really, we want us all to be Stepford people. And we have little categories. And if we're telling the truth, and I recognize this can be a hot word for folks, so however you hear it, and I hope you have a spiritual practice to help you through whatever jumps up for you when I say this. Supremacy. In any form, whether it's supremacy in job title, whether it's supremacy in education level, whether it's supremacy in bank accounts, or neighborhoods, or the kinds of vehicles that we drive, or the skin color we were born in, or how we worship, or if we worship or not. Supremacy is the point of separation. Because if we take away the concept of supremacy, just imagine for a minute, all the places that supremacy shows up in your life, that there's a way it should be. if we take all of those out of the mix, what's left?
Oneness.
Yeah, oneness. It seems so simple. And in truth, it is simple. And there ain't a thing easy about it. Because as the reading talked about, every experience that we've ever had is logged in us. And every one of us, before air even hit our physical being, we're being conditioned to how it should be. And then our character is measured in society on how well we hit those various points of supremacy. And I invite you to begin to throw that away. Our character, the characteristic of water, one of the characteristics of water, the primary characteristics of water, I would even say, is wetness. Yeah? Anybody in here go swimming and not get wet? Anybody take a shower this morning and not need to dry off? Okay. The character of water is wetness. We don't question it. None of us turns on the shower, gets in, and then stands there irritated that we're wet. We don't do it because we have accepted without question that wetness is a characteristic of water. And what I invite you to entertain is that the qualities of God that we sometimes put outside of ourselves, that we're working toward those qualities. I'm trying to embody those qualities. Peace, joy, power, presence, love, life, light. They were born in you. If you're looking somewhere else for them, you've already lost, because you're never going to look in the right place until you look in you. It's that thing that, the last place we look, wherever we find something that's lost, it's always in the last place we look. Now, I've had people argue that point with me. And I'm curious why they keep looking after they found it. Maybe it's just me, but when I find something, I stop. So it's always in the last place I look. So what I want you to know is the last place that you need to look for your true character is in you. It was engraved in you. Now think about engraving for just a minute. It's permanent. It is etched in there. It's visible. You can run your finger across it and feel it. Okay. That's what is in us, engraved in us, stamped as a part of us. We are love. We are peace. The very power that created this entire thing that we know to be life is in you. Not some of us, not the special ones of us, but every single one of us. And yet, we look out here. We spend so much time with this concept of, I will be okay when. I will be okay if. If you would just get your act together, I will be happy. Maybe it's just me that has that thought. when who I want in political office is there, we'll all be better. That's how arrogant our humanness is. Okay? And that's just arrogance. To think that everything that works for me will work for you. If I'm being really honest, and again, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the only one that is challenged with this stuff, but there are days I can't even effectively run my own life. How in the world would I pretend to run yours? I can't keep up with me. How am I going to keep up with everybody? Yeah, it's crazy. It is laughable. And if we would learn maybe to just notice and go, ooh, what am I doing? And learn to hold it lightly. But we don't. We notice, and I'm being really judgmental. Wait, I have a weapon for that. And then we begin to flog ourselves. And the saddest part is when we flog ourselves with spiritual principle. Because now we are using the very thing that saves us from ourselves to hurt ourselves. And so now we got nowhere to go. If I could just be more loving, and then we try to hate ourselves into being loving. If I could just be more gentle, and then we try to beat ourselves into being gentle. Please feel free to laugh, because it's craziness. It's human insanity. The best definition of insanity I've ever heard is repeating the same mistakes and expecting different results. And how often do we tell ourselves in these moments where I'm trying to be more loving, so I talk more sternly to myself, as if doing it harder will help more. I want you to think about something for a minute. We get in this notion, because we're raised to, that we need to be pushed. People need to be pushed to do their best. We need to push one another. Versus inviting and calling. We call each other out instead of calling each other in. We'll call out your behavior. Instead of, what if we called each other in? The activity of pushing. If I push this, where does it go? Away. There is no way to push something closer to me. Can't happen. If I pull it in. So those behaviors, those characters that show up as us, that we seem confused by, what if we met those parts of ourselves like this? Come here. Come here. Let's talk. Some of this will surprise. Some of you will be surprised, some of you not so much. I'm a big fan of Ernest movies, and I don't mean Ernest Holmes. I mean the goofy Ernest. He has a movie out, and I don't even remember the title of it, but it's a Halloween type movie where this monster is unleashed from underneath this tree, and it's turning children into wood and taking their energy to birth its pod children. And there's all this craziness around it, and I think it's Ernest Goes to Camp. There it is. The end result is the way to contain this monster to get it back in check. It's mother's milk and love. And so they wind up making these catapults where they're launching all of the milk from the cafeteria at this monster. And that gets it in check long enough for Ernest, and this is how it finally gets resolved. He's like, "Come here, you big slimy booger," and he just launches himself into it and wraps it up with complete love, and instantly it's dissolved. Spirituality comes from everywhere. Even Ernest goes to camp. How would our lives change if we just took that childlike, innocent approach with all of the big, green, slimy monsters that we call us? And instead of pushing them away, just latch on to those rascals and hold on with love until they dissolve. When we say love is transformative, it's because it's true. It's because it's true. You cannot hate yourself into being a better person. You can beat yourself into submission. But what are you submitting to? The truth of your being? Or one of those standards of supremacy that the world tells you will make you okay? That we've bought lock, stock, and barrel. And we've all bought them to some degree. We all have. Okay? So lean into that. Make friends with that. Okay? Because being mad at how we're raised, that's not going to get you anywhere but more mad. Blaming somebody else for how you show up in the world, A, it's not true. B, it doesn't work. C, the solution is to love you right where you are. And I'm focusing on us loving ourselves first. Next week we're going to talk about loving other folks. That's why it's called courage. But if I can't love me, if I won't love the most dislikable, unlovable aspects of me, I ain't even going to think about doing that with you. I can't. I can't give away something I don't have. I would love to give everybody in the room $1 million. I don't have it. So don't get your hopes up. If I get it, I'm all about sharing. But sometimes we try to give what we don't have, thinking if we give it, we'll get it. If I just give away all my love, I will become lovable. Ain't a word of truth in it, because you're not really giving love. You're bargaining with your demons, and you're just doing a mind trap. Because when we really know there's no love to get, there's love within us to access. We don't have to go get it. You can't get it at the Dollar Tree, and you can't get it at Lowe's. Okay? You can't get it at Macy's. You just can't get it. You can't go get it. And yet we're swimming in it. We are so loved. If we just, for a nanosecond, really let ourselves experience how loved, unconditionally loved we are by what made us. I am absolutely convinced that everything that we think is a challenge would just vaporize in that moment. And we're in this human form. And so we have to be gentle with ourselves and recognize that we're trying to understand an infinite concept, an infinite reality with finite minds. That's what the Bible's talking about in the verse where it says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." The glory of God in the Greek is that moment where our human consciousness is in perfect alignment with our Christ consciousness. And that is that moment of the glory of God. Now, I'm open to that moment. I've been closer some days than others. But I don't think I've had that moment where my humanness is in perfect, unquestioned alignment with what created me. And I'm not even sure that's possible in human form. And then I look at the life of Jesus, and I think, well, there it was, so it's possible. But is it possible for me? And then that argument starts. And if we would allow ourselves to be in those real conversations with ourselves. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, earlier this week. And without going into enough detail to identify the person, what I shared with them was, yes, I question all the time. I was sitting on our front porch the other day, all squirrels are named Max. If you hear me refer to Max, all squirrels are named Max. There's one in Pennsylvania that I'm loving right now. He's stealing all kinds of trees. But I'm sitting there watching Max play in the yard, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes, what if there is a hell? What if I'm wrong? What if all of a sudden the rapture actually starts and I'm watching people raised from the dead? Is it too late to change my mind? They just come. The thoughts just come. Now, I have a choice in that moment. I can just wail on myself. You're a minister. How can you question that? You're a minister of signs of mind. What is wrong with you? Or I can go, wonder where that came from. And what if I am wrong? I just hope it's not too late to change my mind. And I laugh with it. And then I check in. You know, what resonates in my soul are these teachings. And so I'm going to do exactly like Ernest Holmes taught. Don't believe it because I tell you. Put it to work in your life. And that's what Ernest Holmes said the whole time. Don't believe it just because I'm saying it. Put it into practice. Buddhism says the same thing. Come and see. Come and see. If it doesn't work for you, go find what does. And so that teaching clearly works for some folks. Who am I to make them bad or wrong? I can't stand up here and say, we embrace all paths and then make yours wrong. That makes me a liar. So what if we just lean into it? Embrace it from a place of loving our humanness. Loving our mind that is always very busy. Very busy. That's why I meditate. It's the only place where my mind just goes, and it takes practice to get there, folks. If you're new to meditation and you find yourself, okay, I'm going to meditate. Okay, that's enough of that. Welcome to normal. I don't know if anyone's accused you of that lately, but that's normal. We call it spiritual practice for a reason, because we have to practice. How committed are you to your own sanity? Because really that's what meditation is about. Not going to change a thing in my life, but it will change your level of sanity. It will lower your blood pressure. It will make your entire being way more in touch with the true character of your being, those things that are inside of you. I say this quote frequently because I love it. Rumi, silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. In those moments of silence is where we meet the truth of our being. And the minute we open our mouth to talk about it, it's instantly less than. Because there's no way. Buddha, he was enlightened, and he realized that the minute he tries to tell somebody about it, he instantly became less enlightened. Because we're back in the human thing. Ain't a bad thing. It's clearly what we're here to be, or we wouldn't be human. If I was supposed to be a squirrel, I'd be named Max. So I invite you, as we wrap this up, I invite you to fall in love with the truth of your being. And from that place, from falling in love with the character of you, to then fall in love with the character as you. They have equal value. They're both very precious. And while we don't need to or get to change the character of our life, we absolutely get to change the character as our life. We get to choose how we show up. And if how you're showing up doesn't work for you, investigate those things that the sacred reading is talking about. Sit with them, make friends with them, fall in love with them, because that's where transformation happens. Let's take this in prayer. How good it is to know, to feel, to experience in every fiber of my being that I am in the company of the One. That the divine lives, moves, and has its being as each individualized expression of it that I am in community with this moment. To know in every fiber of my being that the only thing in this room is Spirit itself, is the infinite itself, is God itself. By whatever name we call it, it's the only thing here. It is my life. And if it is my life, it is the life of each person on this planet. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming a new commitment to see the truth of me, to embrace the truth of me, knowing that as I embrace that, I am embracing the truth of every being. No longer held in subjugation to this idea of supremacy, but stepping into a life that demonstrates oneness. That I show up in concert with the character of my core, with the character of my creation. That engraved mark of divinity becomes the first thing that people see. And the first thing I see in people. Grateful for this opportunity to allow truth to flow through me, to allow the divine to use me as its vehicle. Grateful to see the divine reflected back in the faces that recognize themselves in the words, in the message, in the truth. My heart is full. This is the joy that I am. And so I release, knowing that it's already done, that it was done before I spoke it, because truth just always is. And so I program my humanness to understand that in releasing the words, I let go of control and stand in what always has been, the perfection of divinity. And I invite you, if this has resonated with you, to join me as we anchor it together by saying, and so it is. God is good when? All the time.